Island of Isolation. Just 1.5 miles from the coast of San Francisco lies an island surrounded by freezing waters and relentless currents. From its rocky shores, the lights of the city appear close enough to touch. Freedom seems visible, almost within reach. Yet the distance between the island and the mainland has long represented an impassable barrier. This is Alcatraz, a place defined not by distance, but by isolation. From the island, the sounds of the city could sometimes be heard across the water. Distant voices, passing ships, the rhythms of ordinary life. This constant awareness of freedom so close, yet unreachable, became one of the most powerful forms of psychological confinement. Powerful ocean currents move unpredictably through the bay, while the water remains cold throughout the year. Dense fog frequently envelops the island, limiting visibility and disorienting anyone attempting to navigate the surrounding waters. For decades, these natural conditions transformed Alcatraz into one of the most secure locations imaginable. Yet the island was not always a prison. Before Alcatraz became a fortress or a prison, it served a far simpler purpose. In 1854, the first lighthouse on the entire west coast of the United States was constructed on this island, guiding ships safely through the narrow entrance to San Francisco Bay. The strategic importance of the location soon transformed the island into a military stronghold, marking the beginning of its long association with control and surveillance. Before it became a symbol of confinement, it served as a military fortress, a defensive outpost designed to protect the growing city of San Francisco. Over time, its strategic position and natural isolation revealed another potential purpose, a place where escape could be made nearly impossible. In the 20th century, authorities transformed Alcatraz into a federal penitentiary intended for the most dangerous and uncontrollable inmates. Its design, location, and operational philosophy reflected a new approach to incarceration, one focused on absolute control and psychological isolation. Why was such an extreme institution created? What kind of architecture seeks not simply to confine the body, but to dominate the human mind? The story of Alcatraz is not merely the history of a prison. It is a story about power, control, and the use of architecture to enforce isolation at the very edge of human endurance. The decision to transform Alcatraz into a federal prison was driven by a growing demand for absolute security. In the early 20th century, the United States faced increasing challenges within its prison system. Overcrowding, violence, and repeated escape attempts revealed the limitations of conventional institutions. Authorities sought a facility capable of holding the most dangerous and disruptive inmates, individuals considered impossible to control elsewhere. Alcatraz offered a unique solution. Its isolated location in the cold waters of San Francisco Bay provided natural defenses that no wall or barrier could fully replicate. Powerful currents, low temperatures, and the distance from shore created an environment where escape appeared nearly impossible. The island had already demonstrated its strategic value as a military fortress during the 19th century. Its elevated position allowed clear observation of the surrounding waters, while its separation from the mainland ensured strict control over access. These characteristics made it an ideal site for a new type of prison. In 1934, the federal government officially opened Alcatraz as a maximum security penitentiary. The institution was designed to house inmates who posed the greatest threat to order within other prisons: organized crime figures, violent offenders, and individuals with a history of escape attempts. The philosophy behind Alcatraz was simple, yet severe. The prison would impose strict discipline, eliminate privileges, and maintain constant surveillance. Every aspect of daily life was regulated, from movement within the facility to communication with the outside world. Isolation itself became a central instrument of control. The prison's remote setting reinforced the authority of the institution. Surrounded by water and separated from society, Alcatraz symbolized the ultimate power of the state to isolate individuals completely from the world beyond its walls. Alcatraz therefore represented more than a correctional institution. It was an experiment in absolute confinement, a place where architecture, geography, and authority combined to create one of the most secure prisons ever constructed. The design of Alcatraz was carefully engineered to enforce total control over every aspect of prison life. Unlike conventional prisons of its time, the facility emphasized strict order, constant surveillance, and psychological pressure. Architecture itself became a tool of authority, shaping behavior through structure and space. The prison cell blocks were arranged in long, narrow corridors lined with small individual cells. Each cell measured only a few square yards, containing a bed, a sink, and a toilet. The limited space reduced personal freedom to its absolute minimum, reinforcing the experience of confinement at every moment. Visibility was central to the design. Guards could observe multiple rows of cells from strategic positions, ensuring that inmates were rarely beyond supervision. The open layout minimized blind spots, allowing constant monitoring of movement and activity throughout the facility. Sound also played a significant role in the architecture. The structure amplified noise within the cell blocks, making privacy nearly impossible. Conversations carried easily through the corridors, while the sounds of metal doors and footsteps reinforced the presence of authority. Silence, when imposed, became equally powerful, a reminder of isolation. The prison included specialized areas designed to intensify psychological pressure. Solitary confinement cells deprived inmates of light, sound, and human contact, creating an environment intended to break resistance and enforce discipline. Movement within the facility was tightly controlled. Inmates followed rigid schedules and strictly defined paths, with every transition monitored by guards. The physical layout ensured that even routine actions were governed by the structure itself. Surrounded by the cold waters of the bay, the prison's design extended beyond its walls. The natural environment functioned as an additional barrier, reinforcing the message that escape was not merely difficult, but nearly unthinkable. The architecture also dictated the rhythm of daily life. Lighting within the facility was carefully controlled, maintaining strict schedules that regulated sleep and activity. Windows were positioned to limit external views, preventing inmates from forming a clear sense of the world beyond the prison walls. The environment constantly reinforced the separation between the individual and society. Structural barriers further emphasized control. Heavy steel doors, reinforced corridors, and multiple layers of security created a sequence of physical boundaries that restricted movement at every stage. Each space led to another controlled space, forming a system designed to eliminate uncertainty and prevent spontaneous action. Even the island's physical isolation became part of the architectural experience. The surrounding waters, visible from certain locations within the prison, served as a permanent reminder of separation. The landscape itself reinforced the institution's message. Control was absolute, and escape was beyond reach. Through its architecture, Alcatraz transformed confinement into a comprehensive system of control, one that shaped not only the body, but the mind. Life inside Alcatraz was defined by strict routine, discipline, and isolation. Every aspect of daily existence followed a rigid schedule. Inmates woke at designated hours, performed assigned duties, and moved through the facility according to carefully controlled procedures. The structure of time itself became a mechanism of authority. Days, weeks, and months often passed with little variation, creating a sense of timelessness that blurred the boundaries between one moment and the next. This monotony became a powerful psychological force, gradually eroding individuality and reinforcing the institution's control over the inner life of each prisoner. The prison operated under a system in which basic necessities, food, clothing, and shelter, were considered privileges rather than rights. Any violation of rules could result in the removal of these limited comforts, reinforcing obedience through constant pressure. Silence was often enforced within the cell blocks, limiting communication between inmates. This policy intensified the sense of separation, reducing opportunities for social interaction and reinforcing the psychological weight of confinement. Solitary confinement represented the most severe form of punishment. In these isolated cells, prisoners experienced extended periods without meaningful human contact, natural light, or sensory stimulation. The environment was designed to produce profound psychological strain, emphasizing the authority of the institution over the individual. Even beyond formal punishment, the island's location contributed to the experience of imprisonment. From certain points within the facility, inmates could see the city of San Francisco across the water, a constant reminder of a world that remained visible, yet unreachable. For many, this proximity to freedom intensified the emotional impact of confinement. The presence of ordinary life just beyond reach reinforced the sense of separation more powerfully than physical barriers alone. Life in Alcatraz therefore extended beyond physical restriction. It became an experience of controlled existence, shaped by routine, surveillance, and the psychological force of isolation. Despite its reputation as an inescapable fortress, Alcatraz was the site of numerous escape attempts. Throughout its years of operation, several inmates sought to overcome the island's formidable defenses. They developed elaborate plans, improvised tools, and studied the routines of guards, searching for any weakness within the system. Yet the combination of architecture and geography made successful escape extraordinarily difficult. The prison's structural design restricted movement, while multiple security layers prevented unauthorized access to key areas. Even if an inmate managed to leave the building, the surrounding waters presented an equally formidable challenge. The currents of San Francisco Bay are powerful and unpredictable, capable of carrying a swimmer far from the mainland. The water remains cold throughout the year, quickly draining body heat and reducing the chances of survival. These natural barriers reinforced the prison's reputation as a place from which escape was nearly impossible. Some escape attempts ended in capture, while others resulted in death within the dangerous waters surrounding the island. In certain cases, the fate of those who attempted to flee remained unknown, contributing to the enduring mystery of Alcatraz. These events strengthened the institution's image as the most secure prison in the United States. The failures of those who tried to escape demonstrated the effectiveness of its design, confirming the belief that the island's isolation and architectural control could withstand even the most determined efforts. The escape attempts, therefore, became part of the prison's legacy, a testament to both human desperation and the formidable power of the environment that surrounded the island. Operating Alcatraz as a maximum security prison required significant financial and logistical resources. The island's remote location created substantial operational challenges. All supplies, including food, water, and construction materials, had to be transported by boat from the mainland. Maintaining infrastructure in the harsh marine environment demanded continuous repairs and specialized maintenance. The cost of operating Alcatraz was far higher than that of other federal prisons. Housing each inmate required significantly greater expenditure due to security measures, transportation needs, and the isolation of the facility. Over time, these expenses became increasingly difficult to justify. The very features that once made Alcatraz a model of absolute security, its isolation, strict control, and complex infrastructure, ultimately contributed to its economic unsustainability. By the early 1960s, aging buildings required extensive renovation, while operational costs continued to rise. Authorities concluded that maintaining the prison was no longer economically viable. In 1963, the federal government officially closed Alcatraz. The decision marked the end of an institution that had operated for nearly 3 decades as the most secure prison in the United States. Today, the island serves a different purpose. It has become a historical site and major tourist destination, attracting millions of visitors each year. The former prison now stands as a reminder of a unique chapter in the history of incarceration, reflecting both the ambitions and limitations of extreme institutional control. Alcatraz stands today as more than a former prison. It remains a powerful symbol of humanity's attempt to impose absolute control through architecture and isolation. The island represents a moment in history when authorities sought to create a system where escape was nearly impossible, where structure and environment combined to regulate every aspect of human existence. Yet the story of Alcatraz also reveals the limits of such control. Despite its formidable design and harsh conditions, the institution could not escape the realities of economic cost, human resistance, and the passage of time. Its closure reflects the recognition that even the most rigid systems are ultimately shaped by changing values and circumstances. Today, the silent corridors and empty cells serve as reminders of a vision of power once considered necessary. Rising from the waters of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz endures as a monument not only to confinement, but to the complex relationship between authority, architecture, and the human spirit.